Why are you doing this to me? What did I do to you? I'm just trying to be a good Shikigami.
Don't worry, Mahoraga. It's for science.
Thank you to our fellow patrons Rebel 4765, Midnight Gem Lord, Sean, Alex, Ice Rose, and Demix LND. And another thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays and Rebel 4765. And another very big thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Ido Okami, and Joaquin. And another very big thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose.
Before we end this breakdown / discussion on what things, what characters, what techniques, what abilities, and what weapons could hypothetically one-shot a fresh, and I mean fresh, straight out the ritual Mahoraga, please everyone leave your own thoughts on what ideas could hypothetically one-shot the mightiest Shikigami in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you have not already. Also, make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get these same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up, guys? I love Pencil here, and here we are to discuss what techniques and what abilities and what tools and what weaponry and what whatever could be used to one-shot a fresh Mahoraga. Notably, I'm in the camp that, like, the current Mahoraga, like the one that's, like, juiced up by 20 Fingers Sukuna, is kind of unstoppable. Like, legitimately, like, I saw the poll, and a lot of y'all believe it's beatable, but me personally, I think that thing's like nigh on a demon, and thusly nigh on unstoppable. But specifically for the fresh one, the one that we see Megami drop right at Shibuya before Sukuna comes in and saves his pseudo-son that became his vessel. What about that Mahoraga? Who, if they were to appear with a certain weapon in hand, who would be able to pop up and pop off to absolutely annihilate that Mahoraga in specific? Mainly because Mahoraga is consistently pretty much argued to be like a top 10, usually top 5 character in the verse, even in its first appearance, just based on what it do, when it do. But there gotta be things that can like one-shot it, right? Like there's gotta be things that hypothetically should be able to smack up Mahoraga. And specifically, once again, let me clarify, I am talking about fresh Mahoraga. Let's say hypothetically every single character or tool or whatever we're putting in this scenario is actually taking Haruto's place when Megami decided to drop Mahoraga on Haruto's Dome Piece. And thusly that leads to some really funny scenarios, like imagine certain characters just being there and like beating Megami to a pulp so badly that it has to summon Mahoraga. But regardless, let's talk about certain things that should be able to genuinely one-shot it. We're going to cover some things that are pretty obvious first, like the ones that are legitimately confirmed. And by the ones, I mean the one, and that would be obviously Sukuna. Sukuna is a character who can definitely one-shot that Mahoraga, because he literally did it. Notably, I'm not sure if Sukuna actually needed to open domain. Like, if he had opened up with the flame arrow, I'm pretty confident Mahoraga would have died. Like I don't think Mahoraga is surviving that in any way, shape, or form. I think the flame arrow round start from Sukuna would have absolutely annihilated Mahoraga. So, unfortunately, Mahoraga, he's not making it outside of that. That's just... it's beyond his pay grade. I could see the argument that hypothetically maybe it could face tank 1, but considering a fresh Mahoraga was getting cleanly cut through by dismantles and cleaves being thrown up by Sukuna, I 100% believe that without any adaptation, fresh out the box, Mahoraga is getting one tap by the fire arrow. So there's the most basic one out of the way. Here's another one that I think is pretty basic. I see it kind of working 100% in his favor. It's Hollow Purple. Like I don't think I need to convince you that a fresh Hollow Purple, this could even be from like Awakened Teen Gojo, because I have no idea like how much stronger Purple gets with time, but presumably a Hollow Purple straight to Mahoraga's Dome Piece would pretty much absolutely annihilate him, especially considering the size of Hollow Purple. Mahoraga is like really, really big, don't get me wrong, that's a beefy boy we got there, but it's nothing like overly insane. Like, I wouldn't say it's multiple stories tall, and like Hollow Purple's massive, like literally gigantic, and thusly if Gojo were to launch one of them bad boys right in Mahoraga's face, then no offense to Mahoraga, but my boy gets done in. Bada bing, bada boom. It's wiped off the map by a singular Hollow Purple. Another one that's kind of questionable, but I think we can put on this list, even though I feel like it's weird, it's gonna be Red. from Gojo, because seemingly enough, Gojo in 229 was going to use red on Mahoraga and not purple. I've seen the arguments for this, like hypothetically, well, red is based on reverse cursed energy, reverse cursed technique, and thusly it should be more effective against a Shikigami because it's made of cursed energy. But like, if Gojo knows Mahoraga, which he seemingly does well enough, then he should know that Mahoraga literally is like hard tied to a blade that has energy flowing across it that's very similar to RCT. So I feel like RCT wouldn't be as effective, but if Gojo thought it was going to work, and if the Six Eyes like scanned the whole situation, gave him the whole data dump download, and was like, yeah, this is a feasible plan, we can make this work, then I'll have faith in Gojo and say that a red from Gojo would work as well. Though admittedly, I'm still not sure, because red is just repelling. Like, if it's gonna sound crazy, if Jogo and Toji could eat reds, why couldn't Mahoraga? But, we'll be generous. Once again, if Gojo thought it was going to work, if he thought a red was going to one-shot an amped Mahoraga, the fresh-out-the-box Mahoraga should definitely be one-shot by a red. So there we go. We have 3 things that are solidly confirmed enough to one-shot Mahoraga, whether it be to their size, whether it be to the fact that we literally saw it happen, or whether it be to the fact that Gojo believes it could work. So there are 3. But what else could hypothetically one-shot the man? Because here's the thing, right? I'm going to be generous to like the rest of pretty much everything else I mentioned on this list. Because a big reason I say a lot of the verse can't compete with Mahoraga is simply because of how fast it is. Like, remember, it was able to tag 15-finger Itadori Body Sukuna. And I want you to remember, 15-finger Maguna is one of the fastest characters in the verse. Like, legitimately, arguably just number 2. Like, right behind full power. Well, realistically number 3, because 20-finger Sukuna. But, like, think about it. The only character that really is able to directly keep up or tag a 15-finger Maguna is what? Like, Gojo and Yorozu. That's it. Those are the only 2 that are really able to do it. Everyone else kind of gets perception blissed. So Mahoraga being able to keep up with 15-finger Itadori Body Sukuna, which should be faster considering Curse Energy Reinforcement does take into account base stats on top of your general actual stats when it comes to how much cursed energy you have. So realistically, being able to tag 15-finger Itadori Body Sukuna is like absolutely insane. So like Mahoraga being able to do that is bonkers, and thusly pretty much like I know it's kind of blasphemous for me to say, especially as a person who's like gassing up Maki, gassing up Liberated Yuji, but like it's nigh on impossible for most characters to do that. Like, should be legitimately impossible. And thusly, I think it's pretty much impossible for any of the characters, even with things that could, and I'm speaking could, one-tap Mahoraga, actually hit him. But this isn't just like a genuine flat scaling video. We aren't putting Mahoraga up against these characters. We're just listing the things that should hypothetically work to one-shot it. We're going to assume that Mahoraga is just going to stand there. We're going to be generous and say that Mahoraga got stun locked by the presence of whichever character we're going to talk about. So let's hop into the first, this was kind of questionable, but technically it should be an instant one shot. I wasn't even thinking about this, but I forgot to mention them in the characters that Mahoraga absolutely slams video. But Toji has inverted Spear of Heaven, right? And Mahoraga is a Shikigami, right? And we know the inverted Spear of Heaven specifically forces the stoppage of all curse techniques. So by pure technicality, since Mahoraga is a Shikigami of the 10 Shadows technique, if Mahoraga were to breathe near, okay, breathing near is kind of dramatic, but if Mahoraga were to get touched by the inverted Spear of Heaven, technically that should just end it, right? Because no matter how powerful or crazy or stupid or next level Mahoraga is, in terms of me pretty confidently believing he's at bare minimum a top 5 character, you can make a pretty solid argument for top 3 with the current one. But even with that being the case, all he is a curse technique. That's all he is. So for all intents and purposes, considering he's a curse technique, and inverted Spear of Heaven also, stops all curse techniques, then I told you where to stab Mahoraga, it should work. It should just end him. Though the only thing is, I wonder if that's really going to work like that. Because we know that Mahoraga has a curse technique within a curse technique. It's kind of like, what are those Russian dolls called? Like Matroska dolls? Like there's the general big one, then there's a smaller doll inside. Like Mahoraga, despite being a curse technique, also has a curse technique, which is the adaptation. So the real question is, would Inverted Spear of Heaven just one-tap Mahoraga, aka like Toji stabs Mahoraga and then Mahoraga poofs out of existence? Or would it be Toji stabs Mahoraga and then Mahoraga can't adapt to anything? I don't know. I really don't know. Because, like, hypothetically, you could argue the actual way to stop Mahoraga with Inverted Spear isn't to actually stab Mahoraga, but it's to stab Megami or Sukuna or whoever's using Mahoraga. Because technically they're the source of the curse technique. But since Mahoraga, specifically the one summoned by Megami, acts independently since it's not tamed yet, I'm really not sure how that would work. But pure benefit of the doubt, just slopping off the Inverted Spear, since I don't think we're going to see it. I mean, maybe. I've heard a lot of people talk about, like, well, there is that missing piece of Inverted Spear that is pointed out. It is quite clearly missing a piece, so who knows, maybe Maki's going to get it. But since I don't think it's going to turn up, I don't think we'll see it. But just to be generous to the Inverted Spear, we're going to assume since Mahoraga is a Shikigami, and a Shikigami is a curse technique, and the Inverted Spear of Heaven stops all curse techniques, then bada bing, bada boom, Inverted Spear of Heaven gets Mahoraga out the room. There we go. So that's another thing that should pretty much one-tap Mahoraga. If we go with the most literal definition and we accept that Mahoraga is a curse technique in of itself and he must be forcefully stopped. You need to be stopped. And speaking of things that force the stoppage of curse techniques, no, we're not talking about angels yet. We're going to talk about Miguel's Black Rope. I'm not sure how this would interact with Mahoraga. I'm really not sure. Because notably, the Black Rope is implied to be able to disrupt things, but it's not like the Inverted Spear of Heaven where it like forcibly stops curse techniques. It doesn't seem to do that. It just seems to throw them off a bit. Like when Gojo's dealing with it in Volume 0, he's like, it was strange. Everything's going wibbly wobbly. This stuff is wonky. I don't like it. But that's the most we get out of it. He doesn't like say, oh no, my infinity is shut down. Just like 7 years ago. How long ago? I think like 9 years ago. 9 years ago in the battle with Toji when he used Inverted Spear of Heaven on me that I had to destroy. But Gojo does go out of his way to destroy the Black Rope anyway. Like he does destroy all of it. So like maybe it can work against Mahoraga. Once again, this is a big victim of Mahoraga needs to stand around and get hit. Like, I don't think, unless you really want to slop off Miguel for being able to survive Gojo for whatever period of time, I don't think we could argue that Miguel at all scales to Mahoraga, but hypothetically, if he were to hit Mahoraga with the Black Rope, it could just cause him to poof away, in a very similar vein to Inverted Spear, because, once again, Mahoraga is a curse technique. So, the disruption of curse techniques, even if it's like a temporary D-Link, could probably just send Mahoraga right back to the Shadow Realm. If we're being super duper generous with the interpretation of it. If we're going with it, then we're going with it. And you know what? Since I want more things that should hypothetically just annihilate Mahoraga, we are going with it. And thusly, I will give Miguel this. If Miguel managed to be there when Megami summoned Mahoraga, and he just smacked Mahoraga in the face with the Black Rope, Mahoraga would glitch right out of existence. So there we go. Those are two tools that very specifically work against Mahoraga pretty well, I'd say. Well, Inverted Spear more so. The Black Rope, I'm not all too confident about that one. But I knew someone would bring it up if I didn't mention it under the tool section, so here it is. Next up, for the final tool that I think is worth discussing, even though I don't think it'll work, it's the Soul Split Katana, because that's one of the biggest things. Like, when discussing Maki versus Mahoraga, I think we can all come to the consensus that Maki's not punching Mahoraga to death. Like, I don't think I can, even as one of the biggest, heftiest Maki and Toji stands out there, I don't think punching the thing is going to take Mahoraga out of here. Maki and Toji do not hit that hard. So the only thing that Maki very specifically has access to, unlike Toji who has Inverted Spear under the right conditions, she just has Soul Split Katana. And while that's nice, I don't think it's like unless Maki is able to literally slice and dice Mahoraga to pieces before the wheel turns, I think at best she gets 2 slices off, the wheel turns, and now Soul Split Katana doesn't work. I don't think Soul Split Katana works. I think Maki just kind of loses. Like, notably, I think she has one of the worst matchups against Mahoraga because she has one way to damage it. And then usually, considering Maki is like a single slice kind of person, like she just one taps and now I think about it, we haven't really seen her use Soul Split Katana that much. Like, at least the proper variation of it where she's like perceiving souls. She only used it against Naoya and she stabbed him in the back and then sliced him in half. So like, I don't know what her mentality is, but I highly doubt Maki's gonna run in there and like do him like Muichiro did Gyoko and like just da 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 da. Like, I don't think she's gonna do that. I don't think she's even able to do that because of how big Mahoraga is. So Mahoraga would get sliced up a little bit, it would regenerate, the wheel would turn, and then Maki can't do any damage. So unfortunately, I don't think Soul Split Katana does enough. Mainly because we literally see what happens when Mahoraga gets sliced. It just immediately heals, even if the cuts are clean through. Like, note, this Vanta went straight through Mahoraga's body, and Mahoraga still was like, oh no, I'm in pain. Psych, not anymore. And then bada bing, bada boom, it was right back to normal. So I don't think Soul Split Katana works. So that's unfortunate. The only two tools I see actually doing anything are Inverted Spear and Miguel's Black Rope. Everything else is kind of just nothing. Like, at Playful Cloud, I mean, you can try to hit Mahoraga once. It adapts to that kind of physical, pure power attack. Now you can't do anything anymore. And, like, what other cursed tools are there? Like, I legitimately can't remember. Like, I know Itadori had that one little blade, but that's not going to do anything. Even Dragon Bone wouldn't do anything. Just, once again, it's a sword. Like, you need to be able to do big, thick, juicy AoE damage, or you need to just be weird, like Inverted Spear or Black Rope, to do things to Mahoraga, even the fresh one, because of how Mahoraga works. If you can do something that'll pop it like a balloon, like Inverted Spear, good. If you can cover its entire surface area with a big, massive no-no attack like Gojo can and Sukuna can, good. If you can't, it's not looking all too hot for you. And that's unfortunately the case with Soul Splitter and pretty much every other cursed tool we've seen in the entire series. At least off the top of my head, I can't remember another cursed tool that would really do anything to Mahoraga. But speaking of things that actually could do things to Mahoraga, let's move to the Techniquers. Obviously, this is kind of a pretty obvious one. I already mentioned how Inverted Spear plus things like Black Rope may just be able to one-tap Mahoraga since it falls under the jurisdiction of a technique. And speaking of techniques, there's a certain character whose ability enables the forced stoppage of all techniques. And yeah, that's the Angel. So if Hana was there, seeing her sweet Megami-chan in danger, she would open up Jacob's Ladder right on Mahoraga's head, and Mahoraga would immediately atomize. Now, notably, I do think that this is different than the Red stuff. Like, I'm questioning Red to this day, or at least questioning Gojo at the end of 229 trying to use Red on Mahoraga to one-shot it. It was an Ant Mahoraga, but this isn't like a positive energy thing that Angel does. No, their technique is literally to negate other techniques, and Mahoraga is a technique. And not only that, it purifies evil spirits. And now I know Mahoraga is called the Divine General, but he's born of cursed energy. Like, bro's he's gonna get one tap. Of course, I do genuinely think Mahoraga could dodge it under most scenarios. Like, at least the pinpoint beam of light. Like, if the range of Jacob's Ladder really is that entire massive halo that Angel ended up summoning, then that'd be one thing. But I do think it is legit just that one pillar of light we saw, and thusly Mahoraga could dodge it under most circumstances, because I do think Mahoraga should have the speed advantage. But if Mahoraga's just standing there for science, then I think bro does just absolutely get annihilated. Like, he would literally be vaporized. There would be nothing of him left, which is unfortunate for Mahoraga, but it be like that when it be like that, especially when it be like that. So Angel's technique, easy GG. To be generous, to give Yuta some slop, because you'll be shocked, I won't be slopping him off too much in this video, very particularly because of his lack of big no-no attacks. But hypothetically, since Yuta had a whole month to learn, and also he was there to witness the technique himself, he should also have access to Angel's technique. So, realistically, he slides the ring on, he goes up goody bop, Rika appears out the shadows, and they drop a fat, meaty, juicy Jacob's Ladder on top of Mahoraga's head, and Mahoraga gets completely atomized, just like if Angel were using the technique. So, that's fine. Another quick, easy, solid technique that should just one-tap Mahoraga. Another technique that should technically be one tap worthy, but I'm still a little bit iffy on. You know which one it is. You know which one it is. You know exactly which one it is. Do we think, like, this is a genuine question, do we think that Yuki Tsukumo's blue lock kick of justice could one-tap Mahoraga? Are we rocking with that? I feel like it should, right? Because, like, it blew a massive, and I mean a massive hole in that big old elephant curse that Kenjaku summoned. I don't think Mahoraga is as big as that elephant curse. Like, Mahoraga is like 3 Megamis big, which is big, don't get me wrong. Megami's like 5'7", I think. But it's not too massive. So once again, if Mahoraga is just standing there, I think Yuki's blue lock kick of justice should be enough to exercise. It should tear just straight through Mahoraga. If Kenny, and I know Kenny and Mahoraga is a really weird, really like long way, like round the block kind of comparison. But if Kenny's shocked and Kenny wasn't expecting that to happen to that special grade curse, I do think the blue lock kick of justice should be able to tear straight, and I mean straight on through Mahoraga. The only question is how big, like how big a hole, and like can Mahoraga just regen from it? And if he regens from it, does the wheel spin and now Star Rage just doesn't work? Like that's the real question. Because if it does happen like that, then Yuki's done. Then Yuki's done, because then Star Rage would be adapted to, and all the extra mass would mean nothing. But the question is, can Mahoraga, like, what would Mahoraga be adapting to there? Would it be adapting to the extra mass? Like, notably, it makes sense when it adapts to something like Sukuna's techniques. Cleave and Dismantle, oh, they're cutting techniques. Mahoraga gets resistant to cutting. All right. For the Limitless, oh, manipulation of space on the atomic level, develop a resistance to manipulation of space on the atomic level. Okay. But like, I don't know, like, do you just get super duper durable? Like, that's the thing about Yuki. Yuki is, like, strangely enough, not that hacks, ironically enough. She's just really, really, really strong. So I'm not sure if Mahoraga's wheel can, like, boom, and then up his durability a whole bunch. Because it'd pretty much be the only way to defend against Yuki. So I do think Yuki Tsukumo, if she were to run in with her blue lock kick of justice and aim it straight for Mahoraga's chest piece, and, you know, maybe, the wheel above his head for a good measure, then I think Yuki could definitely one-tap Mahoraga if a need called for it. And worst comes to worst, she has her domain, and worst comes to worst, she has the black hole. And sure, will it collapse literally the entire planet? Yes, but at least it'll be a double KO and no one will ever know. No one will ever know that Yuki lost to a Shikigami. Never, ever, ever. No one will ever know. It would just be, okay, fine, we're done, and boom, black hole. So I do think Yuki stands a pretty solid chance of one-tapping Mahoraga. Another character who is realistically all power, no hacks, being completely honest with you, it's Ryu. I do think Ryu has a big enough city-wiping Granite Blast that could just wipe it off the map. Just straight up absolutely annihilate Mahoraga. Because once again, he does have the highest cursed energy output in the Culling games. And according to Kenjaku, the highest recorded ever. And I'm pretty sure, considering Sukuna was revered as a deity, his cursed energy output was likely recorded. So I do believe that Ryu should have enough raw power to one-tap Mahoraga. Not with a regular little Granite Blast, though. Not the ones that were, like, charring Yuta's hands and stuff like that. No, I mean, like, that big one that he fired off at Uro and Yuta when they were having their little debacle. That massive one should be enough to cover all of Mahoraga's surface area and completely wipe it off the map. I think Ryu has a pretty solid chance of doing that, because once again, it's just pure power. If you can smack Mahoraga in the face with pure power that's large enough to cover its entire body, then I think you can take it out. That's where characters like Maki struggle. That's where characters like Akari would struggle. And let me mention Akari real quick. I said it before with Maki. It told you if they didn't have their weapons. Yeah, I hate to say this, but Akari's not punching Mahoraga to death. He's just not. Like, there's no universe where Akari's just punching Mahoraga to death. Mahoraga would get hit a couple times, the wheel would spin, and then Akari would really just have, I don't know, he'd probably start like punching a brick wall. I just don't think he'd be able to do anything. So unfortunately, Mahoraga is just absolutely face tanking Akari. But speaking of a person whose scaling is in consistent relation to Akari, I also don't think a lightning bolt would work. Like, unfortunately for Kashimo, it's just too small. Like, notably, if he could drop a Nue size lightning bolt, like those big old things that were like the size of Nue's feathers, and Nue was big enough that I'd say like the feathers were basically the size of regular humans, then like maybe, but unfortunately Kashimo's bolt is just so tiny, and once again I don't see punches doing that much to even regular fresh out the box Mahoraga. So Kashimo would punch it a whole bunch, a lightning bolt would come out, it would attempt to tear through Mahoraga, and then Mahoraga's like, oh, ow, I'm healed though. That won't work again, and then it's done. Once again, Kashimo's kind of just lacking in scale. I don't think he's lacking in power. I think the bolt should be more than powerful enough to tear straight through Mahoraga, do some extreme damage, but I don't think it's enough to exercise Mahoraga. So, unfortunately, even Kashimo's left a little bit behind. But speaking of another character whose scaling and just general relation is consistently talked about when it comes to Akari and Kashimo, well, let's talk about Yuta real quick, and why I think, at least with his current kit, it's not enough. I think if he got access to, like, Bombaye, or Angel's technique, or, heck, maybe even the Limitless, then maybe he could pull something off, but, like, his 3 existing techniques really offer nothing to the table against Mahoraga. For the first one, Cursed Speech, I mean, maybe. Cursed Speech is kind of niche. Like, maybe with Yuta's insane amounts of cursed energy, he could just yell at Mahoraga to dismiss itself, or, like, to perish or something like that. Like, maybe, but I don't know. I'm still not entirely sure if that would work. But let's say that's just another win con. Let's say Yuta rolls up and just tells Mahoraga to cease the living, and then bada bing bada boom, Mahoraga ceases the living. So there you go. There's technically a win con for Yuta, though I still don't think that would work. I think it just wouldn't work out as much. Same thing with Inumaki. If you were even wondering about Inumaki and his level of curse speech, yeah, it would absolutely backfire too. Since we're talking about Shikigami and such, with fighting one, let's talk about Drew Shikigami. Unfortunately, even with their ability to constitute an orbiting domain, I don't think Yuta's strong enough to, like, I just don't have faith in, bro. I'm sorry. Even if he sets up that orbiting domain with the Shikigami, I don't think the Shikigami nor Yuta is strong enough to, like, once again, beat Mahoraga to death. I just don't see them doing that. And even if Yuta manages to summon the massive Shikigami, which I'm not even sure he can do, Mahoraga just stands there. And that's fine. Like, I think the Shikigami would actually maybe accidentally destroy themselves on his RCT sword. I don't even think they could swallow Mahoraga if they wanted to. So Drew Shikigami technique is absolutely useless. Then, finally, the creme de la creme, you have Sky Manipulation. But once again, Sky Manipulation has the same problem that Soul Split Katana does. Do I believe it could damage Mahoraga? Yeah. Do I believe it's big enough to one-shot Mahoraga? No. I think what happens is Yuta or Uro or whatever other secret Sky Manipulation users out there, looking at you, Mekamaru, I'm kidding. But with that being the case, they slam a thin icebreaker in the Mahoraga's stomach, Mahoraga adapts, and now that's useless. Like that's it. I don't know. There's nothing realistically that they could do. There's nothing they can do at all to Mahoraga in the long run. So Sky Manipulation is also at the box. The only other hypothetical thing I could see is Yuta and Rika's full power blast that they can use when fully manifested. But you gotta remember, it has the same issue as Soul Split Katana. It has the same issue as realistically thin icebreaker. It's the fact that it's so small. Like, notably, the beam is so small relative to the size of Mahoraga specifically. And once again, while I do believe it's entirely possible that Yuta has access to Granite Blast now, considering he fought Ryu, I still don't think he has access to the massive city block wiping blast he hit us with, and thusly, I think all Yuta would end up doing is firing off a beam, blasting a hole in the midst of Mahoraga, and then Mahoraga's like, ow! I have a hole in me! Oh, what am I to do? Oh, I'm already healed. And then the wheel spins, and now Cursed Energy Discharge doesn't work at all. So, like, I don't think Yuta really stands a chance. Just because he doesn't have any big, fat, juicy one-shot techniques. He just doesn't have any of them in his kit, very specifically. And the one he does have, which is the full power Rika Blast, is too small to cover Mahoraga's entire surface area. And thusly, he's gonna miss some of Mahoraga with the blast, if not a majority of Mahoraga, and then Mahoraga heals it off and then he's immune. So, like, I I don't really see Yuta doing anything to that. And then that leaves only one more character, one more sorcerer who could hypothetically Here's the thing. Do Shikigami have souls? Do Shikigami have souls? Because once again, if we're assuming Mahoraga is just standing there, not trying to instantly execute Mahito, maybe Idol Transfiguration works, but I'm not sure if the Shikigami have souls. So maybe Idol Transfiguration doesn't work. But hypothetically, you could make a pretty solid argument that Jogo's maximum meteor would be enough to one-shot Mahoraga. Maybe, because Sukuna believes it would do damage to him if it hit, and that's something more than Mahoraga can lay claim to. So there you go. There you go. That is it. You get one. You get one of the disaster curses dropping a maximum meteor on Mahoraga still in peace, and then bada bing, bada boom. That's it. The final actual sorcerer we need to cover would be the man, the myth, the backshot taking legend himself, Kenjaku. And while I think maybe it could work, the big thing is, Kenjaku has the same problem that Yuta does, where his big bad laser blast doesn't actually seem to be that big. Like, I don't know, I can't remember, like, looking back at JJK0, we don't actually get to see the clash, or like how big or beefy Uzumaki is, but like, I don't think Uzumaki has a massive range of attack. I think he would run into the same issue that hypothetically Yuta would run into, and a Ryu using a Granite Blast would run into, where like, the blast is big, it's strong, it does damage, but it doesn't cover all of Mahoraga's surface area, and then Mahoraga heals, wheel spins, and then Uzumaki's worthless. That's the only thing. But I do know you could hypothetically argue Kenjaku Wombo combos it, like goes for domain into Uzumaki, and then maybe that works. But the only thing is, unlike Sukuna, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like Kenjaku can do that. Like, his technique does get shut down if he ends up using it right after domain. So he can't domain into Wombo combo. Mahoraga would finish healing by the time Kenjaku's techniques have recovered. So that's it. Unfortunately, I don't even think Kenjaku can like genuinely one-shot fresh out the box Mahoraga, simply because of how relatively small Uzumaki is. It feels weird calling Uzumaki small, but like, it's not as big as the City Wiping Granite Blast. It's not as big as Hollow Purple. It's not as big as Sukuna's Domain into Flame Arrow. Like, there are unfortunately much larger attacks that would be required to take out Mahoraga. But I do think that's it, in terms of like all sorcerers and abilities that hypothetically could be in the running to actually one-tap Mahoraga. Because everything else just kind of falls short, whether it be to a lack of power, a lack of area, really all of that. The only other character who absolutely souls the verse is Takaba. Takaba would laugh at Mahoraga, then Mahoraga would cease to exist. But that's it. That's the only other guy. However, that's what I think. Please, what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you guys think I miss anything? Are there any other techniques, characters, or abilities, or even tools that you think could actually one-shot a fresh out the box Mahoraga? Or do you think I got everything? And do you think maybe I messed up on some of these and that some would or some wouldn't work? Please let me know all that and more in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You support as low as $1 month. You can get exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dago the Pencil, writing off.